Recently, I did a segment diving into the Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf story. I thought I did a good job going into all of the details and finding all of the information I needed to, but the comments were very kind to inform me that I missed out on some important details. And I did a little bit more research, and I found out that mostly on Instagram, there has been a lot more reporting on this story that the mainstream media hasn't even been touching on. And I decided that I wanted to make a follow-up segment to talk about these issues because it really does recontextualize a lot of this story. It makes you a little bit more understanding of why the parents of Carmelo Anthony are so concerned about racial bias, and why so many people thought that I might have been covering up for the father of Austin, John Metcalf. We'll get into him in a moment. The father's behavior, we'll say. So, for those of you guys that don't know, Carmelo Anthony was a teenager who stabbed another teenager to death, Austin, and he got sentenced just about a week ago to 45 years in prison. It's a very severe sentence. It's a very severe crime. However, there's been massive protests, primarily from like the black community, calling out racial bias in the sentencing and claiming that the fight that led to the stabbing was initiated by Austin Metcalf and was driven by racism. Now, when I covered the original story, I looked for any evidence that there was racist motivations to this, and based on the coverage of the story, there didn't really seem to be. But the fact that every single mainstream outlet now, pretty much in America, is owned by conservatives probably has something to do with that. Because it didn't take too long of looking on Instagram, of all places, to find out that the father of the victim of the stabbing went on some podcasts and said some things that really make you wonder about the character of Austin and the family that he came from. So I set aside a few examples I thought we'd go over. So first, we've got the use of some Jim Crow slurs. You see, during a 3-hour interview on Sarah Field's Jinxed Sip podcast, I've never heard of Jinxed Sip, but apparently it's pretty big, Metcalf directly grinned at the camera and stated, "Let me make something racist up so y'all can go viral." He then debuted a mocking nickname for the 19-year-old black convict, Carmelo Anthony, Watermelon Felon. Yeah. So, unfortunately, we have to go to Instagram for me to show you guys this. That's where most of the coverage of this has been happening, where most of, like, the virality has been happening. I don't know why there's not much presence of this on other platforms, but thank God for Instagram, I guess. I never thought I'd be saying this.
Your hat on the dumbest I've ever seen. Let me make one up. Y'all can let me make something racist up so y'all can go viral. I got a new name for Mello, okay? Because he was such this little boy y'all was trying to portray. How about Watermelon Felon? How's that one strike you? I hope he enjoyed his first night in that cell last night, because he's going to have many nights to think about what he did. And if we want to talk individuals.
Listen, someone kills your son, you're allowed to hate them. You're allowed to hope they're suffering in prison, but the racially motivated nickname is not a good look. All I'm saying is if a white kid was the one who stabbed his white kid to death, he wouldn't have come up with the nickname like the cracker attacker or something.
We can, because I couldn't speak about this in court, but I can speak freely now, because the gag order is lifted. Tiffany Billions, Wackadoo, McAdoo, whatever her last name is, I'm not going to throw insults at you because I'm not going to lower myself to your level. But you're despicable. Drew Anthony, Kayla, you're cowards. You wouldn't even show up for your son's sentencing or victim statement impact. You abandoned your kid. You left him there. I guess he's no more use to you because you can't get any more GoFundMe money or GoSendGo money. You are grifters.
I don't know if that's... Looking at this story so far, it seems like there's a possibility both families are kind of a little cringe. But man, he is definitely racist. He is definitely racist. Oh, but it goes further than that. That is not the only racist thing that that the father has said. You see, later, he expanded on his rant to invoke broad hostile generalizations targeting black Americans. He mocked a black social media commenter by saying, or stating, "You're the only one in your family without a damn record. I guess that's something to brag about in your culture." He later asserted that 78% of you don't have your father in the home, quote unquote, and claimed black mothers have multiple children just to receive welfare benefits. I don't know, guys. That sounds pretty racist. Here, let me bring up the link really fast. Here we go. Load the video. Load the video. I think it's this one. Here we go.
Secret Service Sam here. Secret
Here
Service
it is.
Sam here with some hardcore receipts on the Austin Metcalf Karmelo Anthony trial aftermath. Jeff Metcalf got on TikTok Live and showed you his completely racist side. For him to sit there and say this wasn't about race, and this video I'm about to show you gives you an idea into how these twins were raised.
This is a good point. In the coverage that I did yesterday, where we're looking at all the mainstream media news coverage, everything from the father that we see is him saying, people need to stop making this about race. No one's brought up race. No one's brought up race. That's the shit he's saying in the mainstream media. That's the stuff that the mainstream media wants to make you think of him. Meanwhile, he's going on the podcast circuit talking like a Klansman. And that's the shit that Fox News, for example, and even CNN aren't showing you.
And how we ended up here, and how they were most likely talking to Karmelo. Look at what Jeff Metcalf had to say about slavery.
Even though they did wrong, you're going to support someone who does something against the law. You're encouraging and saying it's okay because he's a certain color. Oh, you've got more melanin than me. Ooh, so you get more privileges, more entitlement? Because 400 years ago, someone actually sold you to us, and we took you over here and put you to work. And then we had a civil war to free your ass.
There it is. There it is. How are you going to blame white people for racism and slavery? We weren't around for that. But also, we fought to free you. They love to do that shit. They love to do that shit. You can't hold us accountable for slavery, but we'll fucking take credit for ending it.
And now you want to talk shit? Oh, I've been so oppressed. You couldn't even vote 1960. Look how far you've come.
Yeah, who decided that? Who decided that black people couldn't vote in 1960, buddy?
All the free shit we give you.
We give you. Oh my god.
You're fucking entitled.
No, that's insane. This is like, he's going mask off here. There's like 2 more minutes of this. It's quiet. Oh shit. Guys, you gotta speak up faster, man. You gotta tell me. You guys know that I can't know if it's too quiet. You guys gotta tell me. Okay.
You know what DEI stands for? Yeah. Means I don't have to be fucking qualified. I just have to be a certain color or a race or gender. Whose broad ass idea was that? I don't know about you, but when I grew up, there was no participation trophy.
If there were no participation trophies when you were growing up, then what generation is responsible for making and giving out the participation trophies? Because it wasn't the 10-year-olds and the 9-year-olds. That was you motherfuckers. You were the ones who decided to start giving out participation trophies. What are you talking about? That was you guys' idea. What, the children come up with that idea?
There wasn't a safe space created for me because my feelings were hurt. We had to take actual responsibility for our own actions. Wow, what a concept. If you want society to change, if you want a better place for your kids, then get involved in your kids' life, in your community, in your church, but don't sit on your couch and bitch when it doesn't go your way.
And what's crazy is in part of this video, he tries to say black fathers are not involved in their life. It's like 78% of y'all aren't even involved, when that statistic has been debunked. Black fathers are more involved in their children's life than almost any other race. Next, he has a mark.
I didn't know that, actually. I did not know that. I'll look into what the actual data is, because if that's true, I'll like commit that exact data point, like the presence of fathers rate like per capita, like that's real. Oh my god, that's a nuke. That is a nuke of a data point if that's true in debates against like racists. I have seen racists try to bring up the whole like black fathers absence issue so often as some kind of gotcha, and if there is data that completely debunks it, that is a nuke. That is an actual nuke.
Mark Wayne Mellon moment, claiming to be Native American, and goes on another racist rant. Look at this.
We are Native American. I have my Indian card and so do the boys. So if you want to talk about...
Shut the fuck up, bro. Dude, have you seen the amount of chud Nazi accounts on Twitter trying to claim they're indigenous, like, American Indian? Have you seen that? There are a couple of actual accounts that they're real and they are Nazis, but a lot of them are also LARPing. There's been this new, like, indigenous American LARP among Nazis. It's really funny. It's really funny. Another non-white group has been welcomed into the white ethno-state. That is the actual state of Nazis is so pathetic in the eyes of like the OG Nazis, I imagine. Like, wow, man, half of our ranks are brown now. What happened?
Stolen land? Yeah, that starts here. We were here before y'all were. They took all our land and put us on a reservation. They just brought you guys over on a boat.
They took all our land. I can't believe he's doing this. This is funny as fuck. He's actually doing it. They took our land, okay? They took our land. You hear me? All right? They took our land. He's a pretendian? Yeah.
Let me guess, your Indian name is running around with big racist mouth bull.
The next question is, are you satisfied with the sentence that Karmelo Anthony received? Do you believe Austin has received justice?
That's a real easy question for me to know. Hell no.
He wants the death penalty, I imagine, even though Karmelo Anthony got 45 years in prison. And if you, by the way, compare his sentencing to identical cases where the perpetrator was a white teenager, literally like 20 to 15 is the standard for an offense like this. The 45-year sentencing is like nearly double what you would typically see a white person who did the exact same thing receive. 35 years? Sorry, it's okay. Well, regardless, it's a significant amount more than a white person who did this crime would have gotten. Like looking at the data on it, it was a really harsh sentence for a reason here. Like they wanted to make an example out of this kid.
What is justice? Justice
He's gonna call
for
for the
me
death
is when
penalty.
Austin walks through that door and can hug me. That's how long he should stay in jail until my son comes back through that door.
Okay, that's at least not the death penalty.
Do I think justice was served? There's all types of justice: street justice, legal justice.
Okay. Now he's bringing it back to that. Okay.
Let me guess. Real street justice means strange fruiting someone like you good old boys used to do in the old days.
Oh, yeah.
And have picnics and make postcards. I'm sorry for anybody who was triggered by this video, but I thought it was important to debunk Jeff Metcalf saying he's not
Yeah, believe me, they would Emmett Till him if they could get away with it. They absolutely would.
racist. And now you get an idea for how these twins most likely acted towards Karmelo Anthony. Acting like they were superior to him, and I do believe he acted in self-defense, and we need to bring justice to Karmelo Anthony.
Yeah, I won't lie. It's looking a little... I won't say that... I will say it, obviously. Karmelo Anthony stabbed another kid to death. But when we talk about fair justice, when we talk about our justice system, we don't want it to be based on revenge and how mad we are that this person did something. We want it to be actually equivalent to the crime, and based on the history of sentencing in this country, the amount of time that Karmelo got was pretty extreme. Goes further. During his podcast tirade, Metcalf referenced the transatlantic slave trade and the American Civil War, declaring that 400 years ago, someone actually sold you to us and we took you over here and put you to work, quote unquote. Throughout the exact same podcast episode, Metcalf paradoxically maintained that he is not a racist person, claiming that he could care less about the color of your skin and is only racist against assholes. He claims his aggressive statements are born out of severe grief and frustration over death threats that his family is getting, as well as anger over public crowdfunding campaigns that have raised nearly $700K for Karmelo Anthony. So he basically just says, I'm a grieving father, but that's not the only part of this story that was brought up to me in my comments in my last video. Another part of it was the all-white jury point. Now, I actually debunked that argument in the video, but I was a little bit off. So a common statement from the parents of Karmelo Anthony was that it was an all-white jury that presided over the case. And I was like, really? Is that true? So I fact-checked that, and it wasn't true. In fact, there were 2 Asians, and I believe 1 or 2 Latinos on the jury as well. So it wasn't an all-white jury. That was just a blatant lie. However, during the jury selection, the prosecutors did deny technically every potential black juror that could have been on the jury. That doesn't ring as catchy as an all-white jury does, just saying that. But that is... I am a little upset that, like, people could have just said the real thing, which is the prosecutors refused any black jurors. Like, every black potential juror was refused by the prosecution. And that's, of course, what is the entire basis for Karmelo Anthony's appeal that he is now pushing for. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but he is. This is from CBS News. Karmelo Anthony's appeal could focus on jury selection and legal errors, expert says. Carmelo Anthony's legal team has filed a notice of appeal following his conviction and sentencing in his murder trial, formally beginning the appellate process. A notice of appeal does not outline the arguments Anthony's attorneys plan to make. Instead, it preserves his right to challenge the conviction and sentence before a higher court. Dallas appellate attorney David Cole, who was not involved in the case, said the strongest issues on appeal may have little to do with the evidence jurors heard and more to do with whether the trial was conducted properly. The thing is, we're in the right county, or should be, in Collins County, Cole said. Then we go to the race issue, because before we even start the trial, we've got to have a jury. Did we do that right? And then, once we got the trial going and heard all the evidence, did we tell the jury what to do correctly? Cole said one issue likely to resurface is the defense's claim that black jurors were improperly removed from the panel during jury selection, potentially violating what's known as the Batson Law, which prohibits attorneys from excluding jurors solely because of their race. And the argument is, it's not so much that the jury pool is all white, Cole said, though I have heard that argument. The problem is that when the jurors were struck, the Anthony argument is that the prosecution used it to get rid of the black jurors. Cole also said that appellate courts often distinguish between questions of fact, disputes over what happened, and questions of law, which focus on whether the trial court correctly applied legal standards. So, that is to say, even if Carmelo Anthony and the courts still agree that he is guilty here, the appeal is on the grounds that his original trial was not conducted properly. And of course, the prosecutors striking every black juror intentionally is they violated the Batson Act. So that's absolutely not properly handling a trial. Also, chat seems to be frozen in the stream. No, chat's just very slow today. I mean, you're in YouTube chat. The chat you see on screen is my website chat. It's not frozen, it's just slow. They were excluding black jurors. I mean, once again, that's the entire basis of the legal argument. Like, we don't know whether or not the prosecutors intentionally excluded all black jurors, but that is what Carmelo Anthony's legal defense, is going to argue in their appeal. That is what they're going to argue. And there's going to be a trial, essentially, to determine whether or not he should get a mistrial. And they should essentially retry him and come to a hopefully more fair conclusion. Because realistically, I mean, hold on. Let's see the exact details of his sentence. What exact charge? Did they find him guilty of, like, second-degree murder? First-degree murder? No. That's crazy. First degree. Doesn't that require premeditation? Hold on. First-degree murder is the most serious form of criminal homicide, typically defined as an unlawful killing that is intentional, willful, deliberate, and premeditated. Dude, they threw the fucking book at that kid. Like, he's not innocent of murder by any means, but he's not guilty of first-degree murder because that is literally the most severe classification of murder that we have, and it has specifications like premeditation. Is there any evidence that Carmelo Anthony premeditated the killing? Is there any evidence? There is no legal requirement or formal evidence proving the killing was planned ahead of time, as Texas's first-degree murder statutes do not require prosecutors to prove premeditation. Instead, the state's case focused on Anthony's intentional escalation of a spontaneous confrontation. However, during the Collin County trial, prosecutors presented evidence of provocation and deliberate actions that the jury ultimately found defeated his claim of self-defense. It's a Texas thing. Legally speaking, I absolutely think that first-degree murder is way too insane of a charge, but in Texas, it seems like it's probably gonna stick. The shove-to-stab response. While the defense argued that Metcalf was the aggressor because he initiated physical contact by pushing Anthony, the prosecution successfully argued that Anthony intentionally provoked the shove so he could immediately respond with deadly force. That just seems like a very stupid thing to do. I don't know. It's at the end of the day, I am curious to see how this whole appeal process goes, but it is undeniable that Austin Metcalf came from a racist family. There might be a chance that there's a history of Austin having actively attacked Carmelo with racist insults and rude statements, and that this was one of many altercations that just never made it to the families, never made it to the school system, just stayed between the two. That's how a lot of things tend to go. Hard to say, but I do feel that we've gotten to the bottom of this story. At least what there is to get to the bottom of so far that we can find. And I'm glad that we were able to do a follow-up. So thank you to the people who let me know in the comments of that video that I was missing details. I wish they could have been here when I was live to tell me. That would have made things a lot better. If you ever watch my segments and you think, Zan, how could you forget this detail or miss this detail? Just know, I'm doing this with not that much help from chat. You could have been here in the chat and you could have told me when I was live and there would be no problem. Just know that before you make your comment calling me out. Anyway, folks, if you enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, educational, or enjoyable in any way, consider leaving a like, a comment, and subscribe, of course. It really does help the channel a lot. Follow my socials linked down below, and thanks for watching.